Is football Scottish, English, or a weird mixture of both? All of you will be aware of Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, Celtic, Rangers, Kelty Hearts. But how many of you are aware of the origins of football? In this video, we'll be diving deep into the beginnings and the origins of the greatest sport in the world. Graham, people might recognise you from a couple of videos that we did in and around the time of the Euros. But could you explain who you are and what we'll be doing here today?
Yeah, so my name's Graham Brown. I am the founder of the Hampden Collection, and Sam, we're absolutely delighted to have you along today to embark yourself on a footballing discovery journey.
Nice. Through
the Three Hampdens. We have had you here before on the first Hampden, but this is the first time when we get to tell you the story of football through all three Hampden Parks.
So we'll be looking into the true origins of football today. So people like myself who love football history, this is the ideal video for them.
This is the ideal history lesson, shall we say, and it is the greatest story never told.
Of course.
Today you're going to hear all about the Scottish professors, Football Square Mile, and our mission to make it a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Amazing. I can't wait to hear more about it, and I'm sure the viewers can't as well, but just let everybody know where they can find you. I'll include some links down below. But
yeah, so if you go to the Hampden Collection Facebook page, we've got a Twitter page which is at Hampdeners, Scottish Professors at Hampdeners, and we've got our website. Definitely go on to that, www.hampdencollection.com. It's got all our videos, all our poetry stuff, all our history, and all about our campaigns that we're running to make Scotland the world home of football.
My name's Lindsay, any questions as we go, fire away. You're going to love this, promise you'll love it.
This is the greatest story never told. I'm going to take you on a footballing journey through three Hampden Parks because it tells you the story of modern football. Right, you're now in the world's biggest open-air football museum. It's the world's biggest open-air football museum because it contains the most important football heritage sites on the planet. It's in this square mile, and it's aptly called Football Square Mile. By the end of this tour you'll understand why. But first question, we always open up the tour with this one, and it is participative. Who invented football? Anyone? Who invented football? No, the Scots. Invented everything. They did invent the modern world. If you ask 99.999999% of the world, what would be the answer?
English.
The English. So on this tour, to start with, we're going to burst three myths. No one country in the world can claim they invented football. It's because if you go back in and you go back to China 2,000 years ago, they played a game called Suju, very similar, open piece of ground, had a ball, and they had rules. That's fine, that's where they start. Ancient Greeks kicked heads up and down streets. The Romans kicked heads up and down streets. That is where generally, if you open up any football book, it will start there. But their next destination is 1863, the Freemasons Tavern in London. Because a group of gentlemen, rugby and football, association football, met and they formed something called the Football Association. However, they miss a massive bit of history, which we're going to quickly walk through. That's where the Football Museum and the FIFA's Football Museum jumps next. However, there is another story. 1424, King James I of Scotland bans football. 1424. 450 odd years before the creation of the Football Museum, he bans it because he wants the soldiers for Scotland, because they're too busy playing football and they're not training hard enough to fight for the country. So he bans it. First record of football in law anywhere in the world. Scroll forward, 1560s, Stirling Castle, they were playing football. How do we know this? In the 1980s they found a football in the walls in Stirling Castle. It's the world's oldest football from 1560s. Jump again. Let's go to the next stage. First rule book. It's not 1863. It's Aberdeen Grammar School, 1630s. A schoolmaster writes down in Latin the rules for playing football. His rules. 1633, 230 years before the Football Association was founded. And then we scroll forward, great guy called Gerald O'Brien went digging in the parish council records, and the parishioners were getting told off for playing football in the graveyards on a Sabbath. What a heinous crime in a Presbyterian world. Playing football, so they were getting reprimanded because nothing was getting done on a Sunday, never mind playing football, never mind playing in graveyards. So let's burst that myth. No one can claim invented football. There's been lots of countries which have been playing this game for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So that's myth one. Myth two. Right, question. What is the oldest football association? Unified National Football Association. Anyone want to have a go? Scotland is the answer, and if you had 100% of people, most of them would say England. The reason that it's not the 1863 they found it was the London Football Association, because the only way you could play in it is if you travelled to London, and in England you had the Sheffield Football Association, you had the Lancashire Football Association, the Cambridgeshire Football Association and the Nottingham Football Association. So how could the London Football Association be the Football Association? Because Sheffield did not join the FA fully, chucking the till till 1877, which is 4 years after the Scottish Football Association was created under one rule book for the country, for all the teams that played in it. So the Scottish Football Association is the oldest in the world. And just to give you an idea of just how mental England was at the time, they used to play games, Sheffield versus London. The Sheffield team have different set of rules. How can we demonstrate that? Sheffield played in Sheffield once against the London team. They played under the Sheffield rules. They played down in London under the London rules. When they went back up to play the third game, because there was a best of three, they played one half under London rules, one half under Sheffield rules. How do we know this? Because they lowered the bar at half time. Sheffield played on 9 foot, London played on 8 foot, which is what you play today. So there you go. Right, so you don't have a unified set of rules either. Third myth. Who is, or what is, the oldest football team in the world? Football club. Who knows this answer? Oldest football club in the world? Come on. Somebody must know.
It used to be Third Lanark, right? But
Not Third Lanark.
Sheffield.
Sheffield Football Club, 1857. England's and the world's oldest continuous football club. Because there was one before it.
Was it the Edinburgh Foot Dashball Club?
Yes.
There we go.
Knows his history. So the oldest football club in the world is actually in Edinburgh, Dalry Park. A guy called John Hope. He created a football club. Edinburgh University came out of. He was no longer playing university games, and he wanted to form a football club so he could continue that. And he thought to himself, what are we going to call it? What are we going to call my football club that I'm going to set up? And he called it the Football Club. 1824, world's oldest football club, not recognised by FIFA, not recognised by hardly anybody, because Sheffield Football Club is the oldest continuous football club in the world, which they had to throw in the continuous when it was discovered by Andy Mitchell, and there's a cracking book called The Football Club. So 3 myths destroyed. The first football ground, you have to remember, in England they played at cricket grounds. Kennington Oval is a cricket ground. People talk about Sheffield Football Club, they played out at Bramall Lane, which is a cricket ground. They did not play at football grounds because football grounds did not exist. They didn't exist because no one had thought that you would have this sport so big that you would have a dedicated facility just to football. So they were multi-use. So down in England they would play in the cricket grounds because then you could play cricket in the summer, football in the winter, get people in all year round. Queen's Park thought a bit differently, said we're going to create a football ground. Next question, what do you call it? If you're standing here, look up. The only thing in your view, remember those trees that aren't there, is something called Hampden Terrace. You're in the shadows of Hampden Terrace. You look up there and we'll call it Hampden.
Right, Graham was literally just talking there about this being the first place that there was ever an international football match. It's the first ever international football stadium that was ever built was right here. I've mentioned this in a few of my videos before, and I don't actually want to sort of tell you absolutely everything. I don't want to film absolutely everything that Graham and Lindsay have told us today so far and will be telling us. I want you to come on this tour and do it for yourself, so I'm going to leave a few bits out, as I do with all my stadium tours and stuff like that. I'll show you what I think would be interesting for the video, but I leave loads out. There is still so much stuff to learn, and this tour will be like an hour or two long at least. But yeah, I don't want to tell you absolutely everything, but yeah, some of this stuff is absolutely fascinating, and we do have the current site here in front of us where England first ever played Scotland in the first ever international football match. And Graham has just explained how there is like the centre circle there of the very first ever purposely built like football stadium, and how this place here set the blueprint for every single stadium that you have ever been to in the future after this place. And 3.5 billion people now watch or play football, and it's all from this very bit of land here where it originally started international football, the stadium and stuff like that. But because of the train line that runs through it, and you may have seen it when Graham was talking, this place had to become a bowling club and not a football club anymore, so we're heading off to the second Hampden from the first. And you would have just seen the mural there on the wall, which commemorates the first international game. Was it 1872, St Andrew's Day? Scotland beating England 5-1 at the first Hampden there, and we are about to come up to the second Hampden, which is Cathkin Park, which I owe a lot to. If it wasn't for my video about Cathkin Park, I got a few recommendations from people in the comments section when I'd done a couple of Scottish videos to tell me to come here. That was the video that made my channel go to the sort of next level where I was earning enough money to make this my job. So I always love Cathkin Park. It's a really special place for me to come. So yeah, let's check it out and see what Graham and Lindsay have to tell us about it. What does it mean to you then, walking up these steps of the abandoned Cathkin Park?
Cathkin is an amazing site. I mean, it's what happens to football clubs when they die.
Yep.
It's a memorial to football clubs that have died, and there is not a football ground that I know of where you can stand on the terraces and get that feeling.
Yeah, of course. There's a beauty in it, isn't there? I'm glad that it hasn't been knocked down by developers over the years. And
yeah, and there's so many stories, and this has been the second Hampden, and in Cathkin Park it's just a phenomenal set.
Well, they had the Championship of the World here, didn't they? I'm sure we'll hear all about that. But
you're about to hear all about Championship of the World. There's some amazing games that were played here.
Yep.
Which is what Lindsay's about to walk through. But you know, if you ever get the chance, this is why it's an open air football museum. You can come and see it for free.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Come and walk around it.
Yeah, why? Who wouldn't want to do that? Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I think I've interviewed Jim before.
Is it Jim?
From the Jinky Johnson Academy, yeah? Yeah, I think it is, yeah. I think I've interviewed that man before.
Back in, Jim. That's Jim Simonetti. He runs the Jimmy Johnson Academy that works out of the building there. Now, interestingly, the first ever British Championship was actually held in this ground in 1884. You'll love this. Scotland won the game. Come on. 1-0. 1-0 we won the game. Interestingly, the first 29 of these home, the first 39 of these home championships, we won 19 of them. So, given that England has 10 times the capacity that we have, I'd say that's a pretty decent record against our noisy neighbours for down south. Now, the big one, as Graham was talking about earlier, the formation of the Football League, and all these myths, all those myths that we like to smash through. The Football League down in England started in 1888. Alright, kicked off 2 years earlier than the Scottish edition. The Football League down in England was invented by a Scotsman by the name of William McGregor. So they've basically just taken everything from us, is what this tour really is all about. That's the theme, so to speak. William McGregor came from Braco. He's a Perthshire guy. He was born in 1864, he became a football administrator, did very well for himself, became a director at Aston Villa Football Club. Aston Villa were formed 1874, I believe from memory, so one of the oldest clubs down south as well. This guy, this Scotsman, was getting so frustrated, games constantly getting cancelled, couldn't get games arranged, and William McGregor pulls all the leading clubs in England in for a meeting and finally forms the English Football League in 1888. So he's instrumental in professionalism coming into the game. He basically invented the fixture list, that one that everybody regularly goes and checks on a Saturday. I get my papers, I put a coupon on, I lose money, it's all fun and games, I'm terrible at it. That fixture list, Scotsman from Perthshire invented it. His name's William McGregor. We had Aston Villa fans on the tour 2 months ago, was that? Didn't have a clue who the guy was. Douche, right? Glasgow kiss for them. Aston Villa fans didn't know who he was. He's got a big statue outside the stadium. He's so instrumental in football as we know it today, and he was just a Perthshire man that was fed up with no getting a game on a Saturday, and he invented the Football League. 2 years later, Scotland come up with their own edition. A club called Renton. Renton were formed 1872, dissolved in 1922. Their club secretary, a man called Mr. Peter Fairley, comes up with the idea of having a Scottish edition. He routes out to 14 leading clubs around the country. Only 2 decide they don't want to get involved. Queen's Park and Clyde. They don't want anything to do with this professionalism that's coming into the game. But lo and behold, Mr. Fairley gets his way, and we finally have the Scottish Football League, formed in 1890. Now we don't have professionalism, that comes later, comes in 1893. So England are still taking the bulk of our good players.
Cameron.
And
Robbie.
And
Jacob.
perfect. And you're all Celtic fans. You're from England, but you've supported Celtic for a number of years, and you're up now.
Yeah.
You saw the game yesterday. You're doing the tour later today.
Yeah.
But this is your first time at Cathkin Park, the abandoned stadium.
Yeah,
What do you think of it?
It's amazing. It's amazing. I thought it was just small sections
Yeah.
of terraces.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed that it's like a 3/4 bowl.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah, like the trees that are just like separating every single segment.
We've just
It's
learned
cool,
as
isn't it?
well that the capacity, the record attendance is 50,000.
Yeah, well, Third Lanark used to play here. They won the league. They're league champions. And so there used to be a competition between the FA Cup winners in England and the Scottish Cup winners in Scotland, and they played the final here, and it was called the Championship of the World, and there was teams that have, it was essentially the Club World Championship of its time, the 2 biggest competitions. They play here, and it's amazing. And then
Brilliant.
it's just been like derelict for all these years. It's incredible. What do you guys think about it?
I think it's dead cool because I thought all the stands would have been like knocked down because it's that old.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it is amazing how they've kept it.
I'm still surprised how much of the stadium is left over.
Yeah, no, it is incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy your stay in Glasgow, guys, and enjoy the Celtic tour later on. It's incredible.
Sound.
Nice one. Quite incredible, really, the stories that sort of Lindsay's telling us up there. Of course, Graham was talking about all the sort of international history at the first Hampden. Lindsay's just taken us through what I find absolutely fascinating, some of the club history, the Rentons and the West Broms that have played at this pitch behind me in the Championship of the world. It really is an incredible story, and we just bumped into those fans there from Stoke Celtic fans who are checking out Cathkin for the first time. They are right, it is incredible how, look, I mean, this place has been like this for years, and I'm so glad that some developer hasn't come along and put a Morrison's here or something, because it's heritage right here. It's football history. I love that. Hugh,
Yes.
firstly, if you could just introduce yourself, let everyone know your past in the game.
Well, my name's Hugh MacDonald. I've been a football supporter, particularly Scottish football supporters, and to such an extent I watched the game in the last 8 decades, Sam.
Wow, okay.
That's how old
Nice.
I am.
That's a
I'm
great
almost
record.
I'm almost as old as Scottish football itself.
Yep.
Love football, love Scottish football, and today has just been wonderful, just
Yep.
wandering around my my old hinterlands.
And tell me about some of the people you've interviewed in your past work and stuff.
Well, it's just great. I mean, being a football/sports fan and interviewing great football/sports people has been brilliant. I've been interviewed a hero of mine, Billy McNeil.
Yeah.
I've interviewed the Sooners. I've interviewed Walter Smith, Martin O'Neill.
Wow.
I mean, and then on the tennis circuit, Federer and Nadal, and of course Andy Murray.
Wow, some incredible names, yeah.
Yeah, it's just and Bobby Charlton was a great interview for me. Paddy Claren down there. So I've been so lucky, Sam.
Yeah,
just
sounds
so
like
lucky
it.
to meet your heroes.
And so, what do you think of like the Three Hampdens story and the sort of origins of Scottish football, and specifically this place where we are right now, Cathkin Park?
I think it's really fascinating. I think particularly, I know quite a lot about Cathkin Park because for long died in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But the first Hampden is a stunning story. I mean, we're talking about the old X-Men. We're talking about an origin story here of the greatest game ever played.
Yeah.
I've been really fascinated by that. But enjoyed Hampden, enjoyed the second Hampden as Cathkin Park. We're really looking forward now to going to my old stamping ground where I have been going to games since the early 60s and to see what they have to say about that.
Let's get down there. Yeah, perfect. We're holding everyone up by the looks of things. So
That's what I do.
Which is the area of Glasgow that you're in just now, had this natural hillside. And when they were building Hampden Park, you know, massive national stadium, they wanted it to be the biggest in the world, and it was the biggest in the world. Yes, we have that too. They wanted to put safety at the forefront of its design because of what happened in 1902 at Ibrox. So, the area of Glasgow, Mount Florida, natural hillside. The idea was, if we build into the natural hole, pop a football pitch in it, it means that everybody's standing on solid ground. There's no risk of collapse. So they've done away with building from the ground up, you know, stairs all up to terracing and stuff like that, and built into the natural earth. So even Hampden now, a lot of the offices, if anybody's ever been to the physio, the museum, all of that is underneath the ground. The stadium behind us, 1937. 149,000 supporters to watch us beat the old enemy 3-1. Yes. It's only me that ever cheers that.
Go on.
I know. It's been a long stretch since we've done it last. I know. I realise that. I do realise that. So that was in week 1, 17th of April 1937. A week later, 24th of April, 1937, 147,000. Scottish Cup final, Celtic versus Aberdeen, which is probably a little bit more impressive because it would all been a home crowd. Supporters for Aberdeen coming down, horse and cart, whatever way they could get here to come and watch their team getting scudded absolutely. Smashed every record attendance, every single one. European finals, 1960, we again hold the record for the biggest attendance at a European Cup final.
This is a cracker.
127,000 people packed that stadium to watch Real Madrid beat Eintracht Frankfurt. Stick your teeth in for that one, that's no easy to say when you're Scottish. 7-3 Real Madrid won in the night. Obviously I've done this tour for years, you get wee kids, wee bambinos, and you go, oh, Ronaldo, Messi, blah blah blah, and I'm like, son, have you ever heard of Alfredo Di Stefano? You ever heard of Ferenc Puskas? 7-3. Tell me, have Messi and Ronaldo ever scored 4 goals or 3 goals in a European Cup final? No, they haven't. They've never done it. And it was done twice here, Hampden Park, by 2 guys that played in the same team. Ferenc Puskas scored 4, Alfredo Di Stefano scored 3. There's only 3 players that have ever scored hat-tricks in a European Cup final. 2 of them were scored here, same game, same night, same team. Anybody talk about it? Just me and that daft earlier.
We've just obviously had how long was the tour? Hour, a couple of hours?
It's supposed to be 2, but we went over a little bit. But
nice. Well,
today.
Some of the stories are so interesting. We're obviously now at the modern Hampden, the third Hampden. There's the 3.5, we might call it, or the fourth Hampden, the lesser Hampden.
Coming soon.
What why should people come and do this tour, and like what are the sort of key points of the story that you think people should know about the most?
There's so many things. Like, if you love a bit of pub knowledge, to be honest, this is where you should come and get a tour. But this is the birthplace of football. I can't stress enough, and it's not a hunch, it's not a myth, it's not a rumour, a legend. Like, we have concrete facts here, which we deliver, Graham delivers, I deliver, that absolutely cements that this is the birthplace of the modern game as we know it today. It should be celebrated as such. It should be enjoyed, and that's really the main thing. We don't do this to be like lecture about it and be like, this is the truth, this is the true story. Like, it is, but it's also like we want folk to enjoy that story and feel part of that story, because we're not saying it's exclusive, it's Scotland, you know, we invented this. This is a game that was invented here in Glasgow, but it's a game for everyone. This is the people's game, and that's the story. That's the line that we're getting on. And it's just those big myth busters that, to me, every time, I've done this multiple times, and when Graham hits out with his myth busters, I still smile, because I just think that's so cool. There's just so many great stories, fun characters, fun games, fun finals that you might know a little bit about, you might know nothing about, but there's always something to take away. There's always little golden nuggets, and it's just enjoyable, man. You can't beat it.